Good afternoon. Excited about the day, another opportunity to get to play. Really proud of my team. I got a great team. Got a great group of kids, young ladies. Really, again, appreciate our crowd yesterday. I thought we had a tremendous crowd, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I think we're going to have a great college basketball environment tomorrow for two great teams. So we haven't practiced yet. We watched film last night and again this morning, and we know we've got a tremendous challenge in front of us with Michigan State, and well coached, got great players. I think tomorrow the country's going to see two really great teams play and battle, but you're also going to see two of the premier players in the country. We're blessed to have one in Victoria, and obviously the Powers kid for them is really special. So should be a great day, great ball game. We'll have to do our part to make it a great game, but I expect that we will. And really, again, excited about the opportunity, excited for Starkville and for Mississippi State to have this opportunity hosting and being a part of this great event.
Okay. Robbie?
Morgan, how frustrating was it for you yesterday in the first half when you got in foul trouble, and how excited are you to get back out there and get a chance to kind of reset tomorrow?
It was frustrating, but I knew Jazz could handle it. So, I still got to cheer my team on, even though I'm not out there. So, I got to keep her head on straight so she can lead the team while I'm on the bench. So, it was good to actually watch and see her do some good things out there.
David, then we'll go to Dane P.
Dominique, Michigan State scores, I think, like 76 points a game, and, they're kind of an up-tempo team, and you guys are kind of a grinded-out defensive team. Are you worried about tempo in the sense that you want to get Michigan State to play your game instead of, getting too fast-paced, or do you even worry about that?
I don't think so. I don't think we're too worried about it. If we play our game, we'll be fine. And, we're defensive-minded, and I don't think they've seen a team as good at defense as we are, so I don't think we're that worried, but we're just going to play our game.
Victoria, Ariel said that y'all had a hi, how you doing kind of moment just to greet each other. Just talk about maybe meeting her and talk about her game and what you think about her game.
I met Ariel last year at the USA tryouts. And she's a very nice person, great person, on and off the court. And like when she got here, she walked by the training room, and I said, "Hey, Ariel." She, ran and gave a hug, how they. But not knowing that we were gonna play each other Sunday, so yeah, Ariel's a great person. Like she's very nice, and on the court she's nice as well. So I guess she's a great person.
Probably won't be very nice tomorrow, though.
No.
Tom, you guys watched Michigan State play, and obviously you guys have probably seen some tape or film of them. Can you first talk about the difference between seeing them in person versus the impression that you got watching them on film, and then how you think you and your team are going to be different in person when they actually get to see you and play you in person rather than just watching you?
In person, I haven't seen them play a team that, denies the floor like we do and, gets out and pressures them like we do. So they're able to run their stuff a lot more easily. And they have great guard play. They have some really good posts. They have great footwork. So we're obviously worried about that. And just tomorrow, as long as we play our game, we'll be fine and just implementing what we're going to work on in practice.
Mark?
I know everyone, the defense, but I think Vic said yesterday that you and Morgan went one for whatever from the field. How important is it just to get some offense going to help out Victoria?
It's definitely important because I know they sat there and watched the same game that we just played, so they're definitely going to key in on Victoria, and we're definitely somebody's going to have to step up tomorrow. So I think we won't play as bad as we did the other day, obviously, but I think somebody definitely has to step up.
To follow up on that point for either Dom or Morgan, is it a case of getting different shots, or is it just kind of getting hopefully the same shots and then knocking those same shots down tomorrow?
We both got really good looks yesterday, so it's just a matter of knocking them down. We got really good looks.
Same way.
Yes, sir.
I'll add, both of these kids have been shooting it extremely well. Dom's been shooting 47% the last 5 ball games, so, and then is our second leading scorer in those ball games. Morgan's been our second leading scorer all year, but in the last 5, Dom has really picked up her pace, which is good. We obviously need that from her, so I expect, you know, for whatever reason yesterday, obviously we didn't just play great. Again, we don't want to take anything from UT Chattanooga. They played outstanding, had a great plan, but we did get some really good looks. So from a coach's standpoint, I'm certainly not concerned. I have all the trust and confidence in this team, and I feel like even our stickbacks that we missed with our bigs, you give me those tomorrow, I'm going to roll the dice and take my chances, and I'm certainly going to do that with this group up here. And you know, Tori didn't exactly make everything she looked at, not like she has been. And Tori's been shooting at a really good pace. So I think all of these kids we've got one under our belt now. We kind of knocked the rust off. I'd be real surprised if we just don't play really good tomorrow.
Victoria, coach has said that the team really plays well when you're clicking and feeling it. I don't know if how you feel if and when Dom and Morgan or Chinwe or whoever, if they're really having a great game on offense, how that affects you, or if you think about that when you're on offense, if it takes any pressure off you.
When Dom and Morgan playing great, it actually makes the team play great as well. When they knock down shots, I'm very confident in them in the next shot that she shoot. So I be want to pass them the ball rather than me shooting if they making it. So when they're on, I'm want to get my assist up.
Steve?
Dom, how important do you feel the home court advantage will be tomorrow, being able to play in front of your home fans?
I think it's really important just having our fans behind us. You know, when we take charges, it's a really big momentum swing. Our crowd loves it, so just having the fans behind us is a really big deal.
Beats the heck out of the alternative.
Derek, you have a question? I was hungry. No. Anybody else?
Victoria, is this the type of game when you're going against an aerial powers, or how you played against Tennessee, 30 points there and 26 against South Carolina, the big games? Does this kind of get you even more motivated when you're going up against someone like aerial powers on the other end?
I'm always motivated by anyone who play. I have the same motivation. It's just whether I come out and do what I got to do or not.
We have time for one more question. Okay, thank you, ladies, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have fun.
One of these days, I'll make you sit through mine.
Okay, questions? Adam?
Vic, obviously you've watched film or tape of them. Just impressions of seeing them actually in person, and then how you think that your team is going to be different from what they've seen of you on tape.
Well, first of all, they are a big physical basketball team. Tremendous athleticism, great guard play. I see a real confident team, a swagger, you know. They've been to the wars in the Big Ten like we've been to the wars in the SEC. So I think you're going to see two seasoned teams. Again, I think they have a little more experience than we do, but you're going to see two seasoned teams that have played, you know, we've played 34 games and they've played 33. So you're going to get two teams that have been to the wars and know exactly, you know, what it's all about. So, you know, they've played at Maryland and Ohio State and all those places. So they're not going to be intimidated tomorrow playing here. So we know that. We know what's in front of us, and we have a tremendous amount of respect for them. I have tremendous respect for their staff consistently year in, year out. They're in the top 2 or 3 in the Big Ten, and they're always in this game in the NCAA tournament. So we got our work cut out for us, no doubt. And again, on top of that, excuse me, you're not only having to go against a great team, but you're going to have to go against one of the top 20 players in the country. And if you're not careful and you take your eye off the other 3 that are averaging double figures, any of those can go get 20. And so that's your fear. Powers is getting 24, but the others are capable of getting 24. And so you really better pay attention to the entire group. And so that's our challenge.
David?
Dominique didn't seem particularly worried about the pace of play, but from your perspective, would you?
I'm worried about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you rather this game be in the 60s? Than
Well,
the 70s or 80s?
I'm always worried about transition defense. I think they're really good in the open floor. You saw a little bit of it yesterday. Again, I think they had a little rust just like we did. They probably didn't come in here and talk about how great they played, and again, not to take anything from Belmont, because I think Belmont did a great job with them, but I'm concerned about pace of play. I'm concerned about transition defense. They're averaging 76 points a game, non-conference and conference. They scored 107 in a ball game.
In regulation.
It was in double overtime.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
wasn't there a game they scored 100 in regulation?
I'm sure they probably did in non-conference, but bottom line is, 107 points is a lot of points, even if you add 2 5-minute quarters. So they are explosive in so many different ways. What you can compare it to baseball and good pitching versus good hitting. There's all kinds of philosophies about which one of those wins. I don't know what's going to win tomorrow, good offense or good defense, but we're going to try to have both. We're going to try to have good offense and we're going to try to have good defense.
You talked about Michigan State having that experience, but a lot of your girls have the experience of playing in this game last year. A little bit different with the atmosphere than it was last year, but how much can they use that experience last year playing in that game and feeling that disappointment and carrying it into this year?
Well, you hope that you remember a little bit walking out of there and realizing, what, we were ahead at halftime. We had played really good. Had a little momentum going in at halftime. I think we made a 3-pointer at the buzzer to go up and really fought our tails off, all ball game, and just had some dry spells in the second half offensively. And then we let Greenhill get off on us a little bit, where she only had 2 at half, and I think she had 15 in the second half. So you want to pay attention to those that you need to pay attention to. And so hopefully we can draw from that experience. But I really think that our biggest experience that we draw from is just the competition in the SEC and playing road games where we have to play them, and playing home games against the people we got to play against. To me, that's where we draw our experience from. And again, our crowd yesterday that's what gets you through the tough games like the game yesterday. Whereas we play that game on the road yesterday, who knows? But we're at home, and the crowd was tremendous, and it's electric in there, and I'm so excited about tomorrow, because I think we're going to have another good electric crowd for both teams.
Michael?
Vic, Belmont's coach said yesterday it was a 4-point game, then he looked up and it was 12 out of nowhere. How do you go about trying to slow down that transition? Because it seems like they can score very, very quickly.
Well, I could ask the NCAA for 4 more timeouts, but I'm probably not going to get that. So, you just got to really take care of the ball, number one. You can't turn the ball over. And, we went through a stretch in the midway in the season. We went against Tennessee and South Carolina. We had single-digit turnovers. We had 5 in one of those games. That's unbelievable. We're turning it over a little bit more than I like to right now. So, number one, you can't turn the ball over, especially out top where you can't defend it. That's number one, because they bring it. When there is a turnover, it is a horse race to get to the other end to see who can get the layup. So that's concern number one. You can't allow that. And then number two, you better find 23 and 1 in transition, because they will pull up from 25 and knock down 3. And so I think you've got to respect that and realize they're more than capable of doing that, and find them and deal with it. And so that's my concern in transition, is those back-to-back 3-pointers. That's what turns 2 to 8, 4 to 10, and so it can get away from you in a hurry.
Danny P?
I know Dominique usually gets the best offensive player on the other team. Do you anticipate her guarding Powers, and what is it about Powers that makes her so tough?
Well, Powers is a lot like these big guards that we've seen throughout the course of the year. She's a Courtney Williams with Courtney Walker quickness. She's Tiffany Mitchell. We've seen this kind of player before: long, tall, athletic, quick, big high release, hard to get to, and so we have some experience in dealing with a big guard like this, but not one is prolific scoring like this one. This one scores a bundle, and so and does it at a very, very good percentage rate. And I think that's the biggest thing is she's shooting 44%, 33 from three, and then she gets 10 rebounds on top of that. I mean, Danny, that's a full day's work, and does it every night. So you got to give that kid credit and give her teammates credit. They know where to find her. There's spots on the floor where she wants it, and then it just becomes an NBA game. It's just get them the ball in certain spots on the floor, and then they go jump up and score over you and create. And so that's what we've got to try to deal with is keep them out of their comfort zone. Last time when we played somebody in our league, we didn't keep that big guard out of her comfort zone, and she's jumping up and scoring over us in the second half. So, again, we've got some experience there.
Steve?
Coach Merchant compared Mississippi State as Rutgers on steroids. Who in the Southeastern Conference would you compare them to and why?
Well, I think they're a lot like South Carolina in some regards. They've got the Tiffany Mitchell on their team. They've got great point guard play. They've got the weapons inside. Their 4-5s are really good players. So, I think from that standpoint, they're physical at 5. Like a South Carolina. So I think for me, I kind of start comparing them, and we talked about that this morning in the staff meeting about how they kind of remind me a little bit of that, and they'll run some high-low game, like South Carolina a little bit, but just how hard they play and their execution is really good, and Dawn does a great job of that at South Carolina. Their half-court offense execution is so good, and again, I think that their coaching staff does a tremendous job with them on their half-court stuff. So, it's I appreciate the compliment because I think that's a tremendous compliment that we're Rutgers on steroids because Rutgers has been pretty good defensively throughout Vivians' career.
Adam?
I was going to ask you, Christine Brennan had a column in USA Today about Connecticut and wondering why more women's programs haven't broken their run or haven't raised their level. Why, your reaction to that? I don't know, you probably haven't read it, but just your thoughts about programs elevating their stature to try to break up their monopoly, so to speak.
Well, I think if you look across the country, more programs have raised their level. I think there's so much parity in our game now. Certainly, they have a great team full of All-Americans, great players, and Coach Ariema and his staff do a tremendous job coaching those kids. They always get the most out of those kids. I think that's what's really kind of not given credit. There's lots of teams across the country that have a lot of All-Americans. Coach Ariema gets the most out of his players, and so I think he's doing a great job of coaching those kids and developing them. The key to success is you got to recruit well, you got to retain them, and you got to develop them. And we've talked about that here, and I think we've done that. But I think across the country, I think people have raised and elevated their women's basketball programs, but I think that's the separation. That's how big of a separation there is right now. Now, this time next year, because he's losing 4 great players, maybe you're not talking about as big of a separation. But guess what? They're still going to be good. He's still going to keep recruiting well. But I think the fact that he's got 4 seniors right now that were 4 really good juniors, and all of them All-Americans, that gives you a chance. But then give him a little credit. He's coaching those kids. He's developing them. He's not letting them settle. He's making them the best they can be. So,
Any more questions? Michael?
Ariel was talking about how she has some freedom within the offense. As a defensive-minded coach, how does that make it more difficult when there isn't a set play where she can kind of just go out and use her imagination?
And that's what I'm talking about. We've gone against that in this league with certain players, and it just becomes an NBA game, a WNBA game, or whatever you want to call it. It's just one-on-one, and I'm better than you, and I'm going to go get my shot where I want to get it from. Mm-hmm. And that's where we've got to do a better job than the last time that we played somebody like her in that number one, we can't let her get it in her comfort zone, and number two, we can't let her get it to her comfort zone. So, you know, you've got to do a better job, and then you're going to have to try to make her maybe take a shot or two that she don't want to take, and you may have to bring some help from somewhere, and that's hard because it's a good basketball team. You start bringing some help off somebody else, that somebody else will make you pay. I mean, not many times in our league, y'all, we go against a team that's got a kid averaging 24, 14, 12, and 12. They don't happen very often. And so they are a lethal offensive basketball team, but don't take any, you know, I don't want you can't take away from their defense, because their defense is pretty good too. They lose in the Big Ten championship game, but they held them to 60, and Maryland's pretty good offensively. So I think you got to give them credit. They are really good, both ends of the floor. They're very talented. They're tough. They just got some hard nose to them. But again, when I watched them play yesterday, even when it was close, tight, I saw a confident team. I saw a team that's been in that situation, you know, before, and they were going to find a way to get it done, and they did.
You raised a good point in not letting his kids settle. For a coach, that's what you've tried to do here, and I think a lot of people in the room would agree that you changed the culture, you changed the mindset. How much of a challenge is it to change a player's mindset when she thinks that she's playing hard and you see the potential in her and trying to get that much more out of her?
Well, one thing about that is the film doesn't lie. So if you're ever wanting to show somebody that thinks they're doing something and you know they're not, you just sit down in the room and shut the door and go, okay, let's look and see what we're seeing. And a lot of times that's a real humbling and an eye-opening experience is, hey, look, here's what you think you're doing. Look here, and you tell me if you still think you're doing it that way. And so I think that's one way to handle it. And again, you just got to keep, you can't give in as a coach. You got to keep coaching, got to keep teaching. Again, playing at home has its advantages, but at the same time, there's some disadvantages. I mean, you know, we still got we got distractions. You know, so many people, family, all that. I mean, we've got our kids in a hotel. Well, that takes away the advantage of sleeping in your own bed. But if I had some of my kids sleeping in their own bed, they might have 2 or 3 family members in there with them. So, you know, it's the lesser of two evils. But I just think you've got to stay after it and keep teaching and again, there at some point too there becomes a trust factor. You know, they got to know, hey, he's right, she's right. I see it on film, and I'm not doing this, and I've got to do this better. And you know what happens a lot of times with young people? They get to thinking that whatever their obstacle is, they just think it's a monster. And they create this monster, and it's a whole lot worse than it really is. But they can't get out of their own way because they think it's just this unbelievable thing that they can't overcome, and it's really not. You know, let me tell you, I got a great group of kids. They work their tail off, and I know it's not like that everywhere. There's programs across the country you know, you pick up the paper every day, there's something in transactions, you know. We always talk about, hey, we're going to stay in the sports page and off the front page. And our kids do that. And it's not that way everywhere. So, but I think you just build this thing in your head that, oh my gosh, I'm 1 for my last 25. What am I going to do? And instead of, you know what, I'm getting good shots and they're in and out. You know, I had 5 of them that went in and out. So you're not that far off, but sometimes you can just create this monster that you can't overcome, and it's not that big a deal, you know? So that's part of coaching.
Can I ask one more as a follow-up to that?
Sure.
You're an intense guy, and I think, yeah, no, it's impossible. When you first got here, my opinion was you were balls to the walls, excuse the phrase. You were just stomping on the sidelines. You were sometimes showing a lot of emotion. Your favorite pose nowadays is something similar to this. You're almost nurturing in a sense on the sideline. Have you changed in your approach in trying to get that little extra out of kids since you've been here?
Well, I think each team and kids are different. You know, some you can probably get after more than others. probably that first year, Adam, when you saw me, I was trying to teach some kids and help them to understand how intense and how hard you got to play this game. You know, that's what we hang our hat on. That's why we've got 6,200 fans, you know, 6,200 come to see us play every night. Not because we're standing around and passive. And so that probably that first year or two, that's what you're trying to develop your program and give it an identity. Yes, I do that now, and I've noticed it myself, and I think sometimes, who is that guy? But at the same time, I think sometimes your team needs that little bit of a calming effect. I thought yesterday we were tight. We never really, we finally settled in a little bit, but I just thought we really played a little tight. And so I think you just have to realize what certain players want, certain teams need at certain times. Now, I don't think I'm like that for 40 minutes, you know, but I do think at certain times, I think that's what you got to do and be that person and sometimes try to be that calming effect. I don't think I'm a very good calming effect, you know, but I try it, you know, and anyway, yeah, I think it's certainly early in our time here, we were trying to create an identity.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
All right, praise the Lord and go Dogs.